and then it go live, and it go hello, welcome to Lazy Mini Painting for the second time today. I am Laz. Hello again for everybody who came this morning and everybody who's come tonight. Thank you very much for all coming to see me. I've just put the whip picture up for these in Discord, so yay. Apparently I've got the dinks going off. I didn't think I'd have the dinks. Why have I got a dink? Yes, I got a dink for a reason. He's telling me that I've gone live. You would think I would know this, wouldn't you? You know, looking into the camera and watching the little box go there. You would think I would know that I've gone live. But YouTube decides it likes to tell me via email, so it is what it is. Where did we leave off this morning? Now, we left off this morning covering off the data sheet for the Deffcopters, which are these nice little models here that we put together. Pardon me. So we have now got 3 Deffcopters that are definitely feelable, but I've now got to find equivalent bases for my other Deffcopters and make something like this for them to go onto, so that they don't all look. Because my other Deffcopters are around circular clay bases with the clay flight stand going up, and I don't like them in the best of bloody times, especially when they've got something like this precariously balanced on a pin up there. Doesn't work too well. So yeah, I'm going to have to remake bases for all the other Deffcopters, because I do have more. Good evening, Mick. I'm not, sadly. I wish I was. I'm not, but I could be. I could be, if only. So what do we need to cover now? Well, we covered most of the painting and the building parts of issue 47 and 48. So 47 was the building, 48 is telling you to paint them up to this shade, which is mostly silvers and blacks. A little bit of blue highlighting, the Aurochs skin with the Koala green shade wash. It's not overly complicated, it's making sure you just get all the little nuts and crannies and tiny little bits. Not a problem, Ali. I believe you are also on bar duties tonight, so I understand completely. Thank you for popping in though. So to carry on from this morning, we're not on arcs at the minute. We're going to go to the play sections from issue 37, which I should have covered last week. And this is going through the Chaos Space Marine Combat Patrol rules. Sorry, not the Space Marines. I'm getting them mixed up. No worries, Lee. Good luck with the signal box. Hope you get the nice little actions moving properly. So the combat patrol rules for Chaos Space Marines. We have the enhancements. Each leader advances along a path of glory. They will gain unique traits, blessings, and skills as rewards from their accursed patrons. Chaos Space Marines who lead their fellow heretics will have fallen deep into the darkness by the time they are ready to take command. They may be able to use the power of chaos to ignore the harm they have suffered, or focus the unholy hatred of their followers upon their wretched enemies. So those are the enhancements. Nice way of putting it. You're on bar and anti-duty, so you're having you've got a busy night then, Ali. Then thank you for calling in, and I'll understand if you don't have a chance to say anything else because, well, you're busy. Secondary, let's go back to where we're up to. We're up to secondary objectives for the Chaos Space Marines. So that's this section. Battles are often fought when armies clash over the same goal, perhaps needing to hold the same position or to investigate an area's resources. But sometimes a force goes to war with their own specific aims. When the Chaos Space Marines go to war, they follow their own unholy agendas. Sometimes they seek to despoil their enemies' lands and raise their altars to their dark gods. Other times they simply wish to slaughter as many enemy soldiers as they possibly can. I think that's a hint at World Eaters. That's generally what they do. And stratagems. You will get stratagems specifically for Chaos Space Marines, although a lot of them will overlap with what the Space Marines can get. So they'll get something equivalent to Gene Rot Might or something like that. Gives them extra strength for a turn, or it makes it harder to wound them for a turn. Stratagems are the ploys and tactics that are available to commanders on the battlefield in the desperate warfare of the 41st millennium. Every available route to victory must be taken, and nobody can afford to ignore any possible advantage. Although Chaos Space Marine commanders can make use of the tactics and maneuvers that all combatants can use, they can also call upon their Dark Masters for help in times of dire need. They have Dark Pacts and stuff as well, which is another weird thing. So let's have a look at the enhancements that they're going to give us. So, you can your default enhancement is Hateful Exoration. With baleful rhetoric and the promise of dark rewards, this warrior goads their followers to persecute their chosen foe with single-minded cruelty. Alright. What that means is, as a rule, at the start of the first battle round, select one enemy unit. Until the end of the battle, each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, on a critical wound, which is 6, improve the armor penetration by 1. Nice. So you get an extra AP on a critical wound. In this example, which they are giving here, the player selected Orc Boys to be the target of the Hateful Exoration at the start of the first battle round. The Dark Apostle has joined The Dark Apostle has joined a unit of legionaries, meaning that both he and the legionaries benefit from the enhancement. If a critical wound is scored, their weapon's armor penetration characteristic is improved by 1, from 0 to -1, which will go through quite easily for Orc armies. They have 6+ save, so yeah, they're not getting a save against it. Woohoo! Or you can take a different blessing. You can take the Infernal Blessing, which is an optional enhancement instead of the default. So, calling upon the empiric boons of the Dark Gods, this warrior beseeches them to preserve his mortal form. Wounds reknit with ghastly sucking sounds. Ugh. As they're coming back together. That just sounds horrible, doesn't it? Yeah. Wrong. Right. Scorched flesh regrows into hardened scales or glimmering crystal. Several limbs sprout anew as mutant appendages. The long-term effects upon the traitor's body and mind may be terrible, but the immediate benefits in the heat of the battle are clear. And that means that the bearer will get a 5+ feel no pain ability. So the example they're going to give now is, here the Star Cannon causes 2 wounds. The Chaos player rolls the invulnerable save for each. They fail to save 1 wound and the Dark Apostle suffers 2 damage. Then the player rolls their Feel No Pain 5+ ability and gets to ignore 1 of those damage. So he still takes 1 damage, but he could have took 4. He should have took 2, but he Feel No Pain. He got to ignore 1 of them. So both have their advantages. One's an offensive, one's a defensive. Personally, if it was a standalone character, I'd go for the Infernal Blessing. If it's a character that's going to be attached to a unit, I would go for the Hateful Exoration. Because the extra AP can make a difference between pushing something beyond its saving point or not. Whereas if it's a big creature like Old Angry Ron, he's going to be running around on his own, so being able to keep him alive and shrug off wounds is a slightly better option. Objectives. So we have the default objective, which is Champion of the Dark Gods. With every foe that falls by his hand, the Dark Apostle howls out of praises to the Octet. I'm assuming that means the fourth Chaos God pantheon. With the spilled blood of his enemies, he anoints the battlefields in the Chaos God's dread names. Okay. So how to score this one? At the end of the phase, or sorry, at the end of each phase, you score 3 victory points if your Dark Apostle model destroyed one or more enemy models that phase. So you'll be able to destroy them in the fight phase and the shooting phase if you're lucky. So it's a maximum of about 6 points that you're going to be able to get. That's no, it's not to be sniffed at, but it's not a lot of victory points. So in the top example, the Dark Apostle is attacking a unit of 5 boys. In the shooting phase, he kills 1 boy and scores 3 victory points. In the lower example, the Dark Apostle kills 3 boys in the fight phase and scores another 3 victory points. He can score this objective more than once per turn, but not more than once per phase. This means there are no extra points for killing more than one enemy in the same phase. So yeah, if you can kill a model in the shooting phase and kill a model in the fight phase, you will score the maximum 6 points. As I said, it's not bad. It might not be the easiest to maximise because it means you've got to be able to get into close combat and as well as shoot them. But 6 points is 6 points. The optional version is Idolatrous Despoilers. I think I've just butchered the pronunciation for all of that. It is the singular mission of these Chaos Worshippers to smash aside the fools who bar their path and push on into the heartland of the enemy faith. There they can tear down their enemies' icons and raise monstrous idols to the dark gods of chaos in their place. So it's going to be about maintaining and holding objectives, this one I should imagine. At the end of your opponent's turn, you score 4 victory points if one or more units from your enemy, excluding battle shot units, are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. So if you're charging forward very fast, that's quite an easy one to get, providing you can survive within the turn. In this example, they've got a line here. And you've got a unit which 3 of the models are in the deployment zone, but 3 of the models aren't, so they are not wholly within. These 5 here, who are all behind the red section, they are all wholly within, so they will score it. And that's 4 victory points for doing that once per turn. So the potential's higher for the other one to score victory points. You can get 6, 3 from each phase, but this is a guaranteed 4 at the end of their turn. At the end of their player's turn, if you've got someone in their deployment zone wholly and they're not battle shocked, then it's straight 4 victory points, which will work out more than the 3, obviously. I think the 3/6 will be more of a steady one to go for, but it's up to you depending on how you feel in your army. Next, it will be stratagems, and that'll bring us to the end of our issue 47. So, stratagems. It gives us 3 different ones. It gives us Empiric Rights, and this is a Dark Zealot's battle tactics stratagem. I think they're all battle tactics. Yeah, 2 of them are more for shooting phase, one of them's for melee. I think one's for either. So this one's for either. Invoking the names of demonic patrons, the Heretic Astartes ward away enemy attacks. You use this when your opponent's shooting phase or fighting phase just after an enemy unit has been selected or has selected its targets. And your target to use this on is one of your Heretic Astartes infantry units that has been selected as a target. Its effect: until the end of the phase, models in your selected unit have a 4+ invulnerable save. And that is bloody nice. That is very bloody nice. because it's not specifying. I mean, it could be your Terminators, it could be a 20-man unit of Khorne Berserkers, and you've just given them a 4+ invulnerable save for 1 CP. That's brilliant. The second stratagem is Bitter Blows. You can use this in the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. You select one of your Heretic Astartes infantry units that was selected for 1 or more attacks from the attacking unit. What does it do? Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, roll a d6. On a 4+, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking model's unit has finished making its attacks, and then it is removed from play. So this is a 1 CP. Fight phase only, fight on death. Again, quite useful. It has to be an infantry model, so you're not using it on monsters, you're not using it on vehicles. But large units, again, or any tougher units that can definitely punch up above the weight, could be worth using this on, especially if you know they're going to have the jump on, someone's going to have the jump on them, and good chance of them taking out a couple of models. Having been able to fight on death, excellent. The third and final is Malicious Volleys. Veterans of the Long War, these warriors know precisely where to place their shots to inflict the most pain and misery on their luckless victims. So you use it in your own shooting phase. You select 1 Heretic Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot, so they can't have shot already. The effect is, until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If that attack targets a unit that is below half strength, you can reroll all the hit rolls instead. So most of the time you'll be hitting on 3s, maybe 4s or 2s depending on weapon rules, but giving you the ability to reroll 1s, especially on units like Havocs who have heavy weapons. So las cannons, which are notorious for rolling 1s to hit. Heavy bolters, multi-melters, any big stuff that you really, it's low shot yield but high power. Giving the ability to reroll the hit rolls just to make sure you can get them through. Nice damage output boost in that one. So very, very nice stratagems. Some very, very nice enhancements. The objectives, they're about equal in my opinion, depending on the army. This is going playing Chaos Space Marines, so I would probably go for the more guaranteed 3 points at a phase that I'm going to kill something from whatever unit he's with, from him or whatever unit he's in, rather than the I can make sure I can survive in your deployment zone, because the only one that you're really going to have, you can teleport your Terminators in late game, but you're missing out on at least 12 points for that, and you're not getting much up there quick enough to be able to score it on the second turn, really. But the stratagems are nice, definitely some nice ones for keeping your stuff alive with the invulnerable save in the fight, and damage outputs with the fights on death and the reroll hits for shooting. Both very good. Well, that brings us to the end of issue 37. Obviously, in 37 next week, it was telling you that we was going to get the rest of the Death Copters, and then it tells us about the next 2-parter that's coming, which is the Death Dread. But now we're going to move on to issue 38, which is going to tell us a bit more about the Orcs this time. So we've been through the Chaos side now, we've finished with those. I believe that's going to be us finished with the Chaos now. It should mostly be Orcs, and then I believe we're going to Votann from here. So we'll continue on. Orcs, what do we get to find out about Orcs? Cunning but brutal. Orcs are as famous for their deadly cunning as they are for their brutality. When these two parts of orcish nature are joined, they become an unstoppable force. Not only can their brutal nature overcome even the staunchest of defences, but their cunning allows them to secure and exploit their victories to the best effect. All orcs, All orcs possess both cunning and brutality. Those who lean more towards cunning are no less dangerous for it. They simply use their cunning to find more opportunities to be brutal. Some choose to use their cunning directly on the battlefield, employing sneaky maneuvers and furtive ploys. Others will employ their gift of ingenious nastiness by creating and maintaining new horrors to deploy against their enemies. These cunning efforts can be as varied as psychic meddling, mechanical innovation, or biological experimentation. When allied with their more brutal cousins, they make a well-rounded force that presents a serious danger to anyone in the way. That is correct. That is definitely correct. Orcs are just hilariously daft with how they work. So crafty mech gubbins. This will be the more. Yeah, this is the how to make stuff and keep the orc war going on wheels, and the speed wars going, and the packs going, and people in dread armor and mega armor and all sorts of stuff. Some orcs are driven by powerful urge to devise bizarre contraptions and to tinker with their army's technological items. These orcs are called mechs, and their madcap inventions are unpredictable and absurd, but reliably deadly. Whether they pose the most danger to the enemies or to the orcs, the enemies of the orcs, or to the orcs themselves, is not always entirely certain. No, a lot of orcs like to blow themselves up. It's just as much fun. Just as much fun blowing up an orc as it is blowing up somebody else. Mega Blast, the custom Mega Blasters being a good one for it. Shock Attack guns being another good one for it. Teleporter abilities. That's good. The other side, we have the more biological side. You have the Mad Dogs. Some orcs take an unsettling interest in the biology of their fellow orcs. These inquisitive scientists are called dogs. They can usually be found standing in a puddle of their patient's blood, repairing battle damage or attempting improvements, like adding claws and taking bits off and adding metal bits. Because they want to find out, and well, you're unconscious on their table. You said you didn't say no, so that's a yes for them. Funny how that works. And now there's the other part of the cunning orcs, which is the sneaky gits. Some orcs like to get as near to their enemies as possible before unleashing a torrent of violence at close quarters. These sneaky specialists are called commandos. They use their guile and ingenuity to get within stabbing distance, where they can enjoy disassembling the foe up close. Now, I've never really liked the commandos because it's essentially orcs that get close. But if you get close, you generally get shot. If the first one there gets shot, the commandos are usually the first ones there. So you're paying a bit of a premium for them to get shot at first. Not used them in the new edition, but yeah, I've never enjoyed commandos. I'd rather just throw more boys. More boys! Is that it for the orc bit in 38? Is that it? Just learning about cunning. Okay. Just cunning. We get a nice big play section, so we're alright. But we are going to get to learn about melee weapons as a whole. Not just for orcs, but as a whole across Warhammer 40,000. Across the battlefields of the far future, armies depend on their infantry just as surely as they rely upon armoured vehicles or artillery. Once battle is joined, it's only a matter of time before the opposing forces close in on each other, and when action moves to close quarters, the enemy is often only a few steps away. Amidst the din of war, the sound of close combat echoes out from every battlefield. The revving of vehicles is answered by the revving of chainswords. Blades screech as they are dragged across armour. The crackle of power weapons fills the air, and the dull thuds of clubs and hammers sound out over the cacophony. Before troops run headlong into each other, explosions roar as grenades detonate in the crush of combatants' bodies, and breaching charges blast apart obstacles. Although armies rely on close combat weapons, although all armies rely on close combat weapons, their construction and effectiveness varies wildly. The warriors of some factions wield little more than primitive cudgels, while others carry weapons of arcane power or technological brilliance. Explosives are no less diverse, and armies carry everything from basic fuse-ignited blasting charges to advanced munitions that erupt into lethal conflagrations of plasma or worse. So basic weapons, or basic melee weapons, even with the technology available in the 41st millennium, it still falls to infantry to take and hold the ground. Lots of fighting happens within arm's reach of the foe, and every soldier will possess a simple hand weapon in preparation of close combat. So for Genestealer cults, they have bioweapons, usually bone swords, flesh whips, something slightly alien and not of this planet. Death Corps of Krieg, gotta love them. They have a trench club and you also get the Armageddon Steel Legion, which use shovels. They have weaponized garden equipment to an extremely effective way. And then you go slightly more of the weird stuff, and you end up with Death Guards, which have plague axes, power weapons that now distribute and spread contagion and plague as they go. So not only are they going to damage the person that they hit, it's going to spread to the person next to them and the person next to them, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow and eventually become an army of poxwalkers. Oh, because you got to scratch off a little knife. Heavy melee weapons. Here's where we go. Elite troops and close combat specialists will often carry especially powerful melee weapons into battle. Some of these weapons use terrifying technology to melt through ceramite and slice into steel. Others simply possess enough size and weight to crush armor and knock powerful enemies clean off their feet. So again, going back to the Death Guard, they have very nice power scythes. So they're the type of high-powered, we're going to slice through you, cut nicely through the ceramite and steel. And yeah, more clean weapons. Not necessarily clean being the word you should use for Nurgle, with him being the plague god after all. But it's a slicing weapon. The Astra Militarum have something called a Bulgrim, however, and he carries a hefty maul. Now, it's not big powered, designed to slice through things. No, this is the Latal. This is just big, chunky piece of heavy stuff that is gonna overhand swing and smash you into a piece of smush. Or he's gonna use it like a baseball bat and probably you become a baseball. And whee, off you go. Explosives and grenades, which is this section. So there are more. There is also a place for hand-deployed explosives and grenades on the battlefield. Of the far future, yeah. Some of them are fun though. These range from simple fragmentation grenades designed to root out troops in cover to larger charges that can be deployed against heavily armoured vehicles or even against bunkers and buildings. So most armies will have some form of grenade. Space Marines can have frag, crack, and smoke grenades along with melter bombs. This is what appears to be either an incursor or an infiltrator with a smoke grenade. There is an Eldari with a plasma grenade, similar in dealings to a crack grenade. You have a Leagues of Votann member there with a gravitic concussion grenade. And my favourite one of all, this little chappy down here. Can you see him here? This is the Orcs. That is a bomb squig. that is essentially 2 legs and a mouth strapped with basic fuse explosives, as many of them as they can cram onto it, and they just point it away from themselves and let it run off, and when it gets to something it blows up. Very accurate. The squigs are still one of my favourite. Just looking, and squigs are awesome. Again, if you have been reading the Bonds of Honor, this is part 12 that comes in issue 38. Please carry on reading it. It's the Silver Templars. They are an interesting little Space Marine chapter that was designed purposely for Hachette Artworks. If you're painting those, then good luck to you, because these silver and yellow and 2 quite difficult ones to paint. 2 pages on that one though, so enjoy that read. And that brings us lastly to scenario 30. Okay, so to play Vroom Daka Daka, set up your battlefield on 2 mats as shown below. So we're using battle mat 1 and 2 for this, and they're going to be laid out next to each other. Place 4 objective markers where they are shown. So there is, if you look here, you've got a Chaos Space Marines deployment zone which takes up 2 squares, and they get 1 right in their bottom corner. What objective marker 1 goes right up in the top corner. 2 goes next to the Orcs deployment zone. 4 goes, so essentially 1, 3 and 4 are all in the corners. 2 gets shifted over 1 because they don't want you to put it in the Orc deployment zone. That's a bit unfair, but hey, I've got a feeling the advantage is going to be for the Orcs in this one. So when you've set up your markers as shown, take it in turns to place a total of 4 terrain cards. The Orc player selects 1 of their units of 10 boys and a unit of 3 Death Copters. The Chaos Marine player takes a Dark Apostle with his disciples and 2 units of 5 legionaries. The units are deployed as indicated below, except the Death Copters, which are set up in reserve. Right, so all your boys go in there, and all your Chaos Marines go in there, and your Copters are flying around up, probably racing each other until they can be asked coming down. The Orc player places each of their boys in the deployment zone. The Chaos Space Marine player places their units in their deployment zone. The Chaos Space Marine player takes the first turn. Neither player may take any enhancements or secondary objectives, or use any faction abilities or stratagems. So no stratagems, no CP, no nothing for this. How to win. At the end of each player's command phase, players score victory points as follows. If they control an objective marker, they score 5 victory points. If they control more than their opponent, they score another 5. If at the end of the 5th battle round, the player with the most victory points is the winner. If you have equal, then it's a draw. Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Deep Strike reminder. In this game, the Death Copters are set up in reserve. The Orc player can deploy them onto the battlefield during the reinforcement step of the movement phase from their second turn onwards. When they are deployed this way, the Death Copters must be set up more than 9 inches horizontally away from their units. Luckily, they've got a 24-inch range on those copter rockets, eh? Flying reminder. Now, these are a flying unit. In this example, the Death Copters have made a normal move over the Chaos Space Marines. So we've gone from here straight over the top to reach this objective marker over here, ending their move outside the Legionaries' engagement range. Since they made a normal move and not a charge move, the Death Copters could not have ended within the Legionaries' engagement range, so they've had to stay that 1 inch away. So even though they can fly straight over the top, they have to stay that 1 inch away when they finish their move, otherwise they're technically in engagement range and you can only do that in the charge phase. Other than that, it's fight it out and take the objectives. As I said, I do think the Ark player has a slight advantage on this one, having Death Copters that can come in and one shot a Marine each time, and they only have 2 sets of 5. Having a full set of 10 Orcs is a little bit of a thing to chew through, even for 10 Legionaries, especially if they're not right next to them. And if the Orcs come down here and brought the Copters this way, then yeah, the Legionaries are gonna struggle. That's in my personal opinion anyway. What do I know? I've not played this edition much. So I think the advantage would be with the Arcs in this scenario. It's just where you move and where you make your decisions. So once you found out who's won that one, let's change it around a bit. You can always customize this scenario to see how your Arcs fare against different opponents. Both players should help to decide which enemies to use so that both have fun and learn more about their units. To help build a fun and engaging scenario, you can look to swap out equivalent enemy units. So a champion for a champion, you swap out the Dark Apostle for the Winged Prime, for instance. You would swap out the Legionaries for Termagants. So even though Termagants are not as good as the Legionaries, they're not as overall rounded, you would put more Termagants in, so you might go for a full unit of 10 Termagants and a Winged Prime, and then, or you might even think about putting Von Ryan's Leapers in as an extra. Instead of the Winged Prime, go for the Termagants and Von Ryan's Leapers to make it more of a 1-for-1 type of 3 Von Ryan's Leapers against 3 Copters, and you've got 10 Termagants up against the 10 boys. Again, swapping it around, 5 Infernus and Terminator Captain or Terminator Librarian, and maybe even 2 to 3 Terminators just to help balance it out. Again, the Copters can still take a Terminator out in one shot, so that's still doable. And yeah, so there's quite a few choices you could chop and change around there just to see how things work through. And that will be, I guess, it's the end of issue 38. Now, I did split today up over 2, which is why it's been only 40 minutes to cover this, because obviously I built the 3 models this morning and went through the paint schemes on the earlier version of this Combat Patrol set. That's what the issues with me missed this week. We will get to start at least looking at the Death Dread, as well as Arc Anatomy and Display of Might is going to be coming in issue 49. In issue 50, we will be getting the rest of the Death Dread. We'll be going through Arc Culture, and then we'll be getting the Combat Patrol rules for the Arcs as well. So over the next 2 issues, we'll be getting a lot more Arciness going on. But I've got to say, I'm very happy having these nice 3 Death Copters, because I have lost a couple of mine over the years, so I can now feel a full unit of 6 again. So 6 Death Copters, 6 bikes. I'm going to have 3 different cart buggy things: a Shock Dragster, a Custom Booster Blaster, and a Boomdacker Snazwagon, as well as a Stomper and my Gazgul Proxy and a load of knobs. So I've got a 2,000 point army of Orcs very, very soon. Oh, my legs. Should not have sat like that, really. So that's those 2 issues covered, and I'm looking forward to getting the Death Dread soon, because I've wanted a Death Dread. It's a mini Stomper. Who doesn't want a mini Stomper? Well, probably anyone who wants to play me doesn't want me to have a mini Stomper. But that's a different matter entirely, because no one plays me at the moment. We'll have to change that. I'll play Graham at something next Saturday. It might not be Warhammer though, it's probably going to be a board game. That should be fun. So yes, anyone who's at that board game convention, not this Saturday the Saturday after in Manchester. Um, please feel free to come up and say hello to me. Again, I will be with family members, so please be a little bit respectful of it, but I'm more than happy to say hello to people. I may be with other people as well. Again, please be respectful of those. But if you want to come and talk to me, ask questions, just say hello, I'll be more than happy. So hopefully I'll see you all, some of you then. If not, it'll be tomorrow night. Now, Sparkles has already chosen what I want to paint tomorrow night, and it's a butterfly. So this is going to be good. The magical world of Sparkles will know tomorrow night. I am painting a butterfly. That's going to be fun. But I've enjoyed this. Nice new rules. I'm definitely liking that I can give Chaos Champion 5+ like feel no pain. Yay. And being able to give a unit a 4+ invulnerable save for 1 CP. That's awesome. But not so happy about some of the objectives and the they're not that good. I don't think. The Dark Apostle's got to kill 2 models a turn, which he's only got a fucking pistol. How's he supposed to do that? And then he's going to be a mile and a half away from everything else. So you're not scoring until turn 3, really, to start getting maximum out of it. And even then, you might be locked in close combat, so you're not getting. You might end up actually earning more victory points using the get into the enemy deployment zone and just using something quick that can straight over. Might work, might not. You'd have to try it. I'm going to have to try it out. I'm going to go back through find all these missions and start throwing them through. That means filming. That means I've got to take this off. I'm not very good at taking technology apart and getting it working again when I try and put it back to where I want it to be. But that's enough of my rambling and waffling. Thank you very much for everyone coming in. Please, all of you, drive safely. Look after yourselves, and I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Again, all links and anything for social medias or Discords are all down below. Please feel free to click them, along with that like and subscribe button if you want. But you don't have to.